Now we're here for a little bit of something a wee bit different here. Now, with the advent of large language models, some may refer to these as AI agents, if you would. What am I talking about? Typically, your ChatGPT, your Cloud, your Gemini, and everything like that. Large language models have been trained on basically the entire visible internet as we know it. That can output great deals of text and occasionally some interesting pictures and stuff. One of the things this has done, this is give the average Sally Dicker Jane the ability to ask very vibrant questions here. Now again, it's like I ain't no bitch. I'm a dude on the internet that paid for some advertising that somehow a lot of people like some conformal yada yada. Basically, a cyclic cosmology model that brought in a whole bunch of folks that realistically they're probably not interested in other things other than if I'm talking about cyclic cosmology. Ain't nothing wrong with that. You do you. You watch and consume what you enjoy. But even being a smaller person, every once in a while, you'll have folks send you different things, different ideas, look at things, and you know what? Sometimes you're looking through that, you're like, I didn't know that at all. Now, a lot of that comes from my personal lack of knowledge, not having a PhD in physics or mathematics. So a lot of times, if I come across a new idea that I'm not familiar with, I'm like, that's pretty cool. However, however, there is something that I think it was Kurt that said a number of months ago. I think Kurt Scheinmongel, shout out to Kurt. I saw him at the MIT Augmentation Lab, and he had some interesting conversations with some folks. I won't get into that there because behind the scenes stuff. Uh, but ultimately, he had posted something before. It's because he's literally hosting a channel called Theories of Everything. Um, he gets folks sending stuff all the time. And if you go into different Discord servers or on Twitter and stuff, you'll have folks, and very often they'll lay out their conversations with different bots and stuff. And some folks will say, "Well, I'm not a mathematician. I don't know what this is." And occasionally, folks will send stuff to me because they, for some reason, they think I'm a mathematician. You Shiloh for saying I'm a mathematical physicist. I just go into Wolfram Alpha and play. I am not a mathematical physicist. If anything, I'm a numerologist that hopes eventually maybe some of these coinky might actually mean something. Okay. Why am I saying this? Because I'm pretty sure Kurt has also said this. He'll get folks literally sending him like 100 pages of chat from these different bots and stuff that somebody will send them. And it's like, okay, if you're just sending literally a massive wall of text, may look pretty and everything. And sometimes it's like, could you summarize this for me? So rather than having to go through like 100 or 30 pages or even however many pages, it's like, would you summarize it for me for what is actually going on? Because here's the thing: if you generate something and then all of a sudden you're like, "This is fantastic. Let me show it to somebody that might know what's going on." I've done that. I've done that. When one of the things I'm literally sharing from my own failed experiences here. It's like, oh, well, look at this. This is something cool. And then occasionally somebody will be like, well, this is wrong for these reasons. And it led me to something that the loop back around what I was talking about a minute ago is Bert had posted something where basically some people will send them all these different ideas about their theories or something. Very often it was put together by a large language model. You look at it real quick and you're like, oh my God, oh, maybe this is something novel. This is something new. But as you go through, it's like, all right, well, this is a mistake, or there's an error here, or the logic doesn't line up here. And Kurt had said something that kind of rung true with me. It's like a lot of people are asking about all these different ideas and how they can try to help. I think Stephen Wolfram put this in the most recent piece. Solve physics or prove Einstein wrong. Maybe they've done that. That might be the case. This stream is about that. The one thing that I think a lot of folks that are using AI to research, and I should probably clarify this. When I say AI researchers, I'm not talking about the actual folks that are studying the AI, LLM models and stuff like that as far as to figure out what's going on. I'm talking about the folks that generally are utilizing AI or some form of a large language model to help move science forward, so to speak, to peer into the unknown and discover something that may not have been discovered before. Okay. Okay. Some folks might say, oh my God, I'm being called out or something. Very often when I talk about things, might I be talking about somebody in particular? Maybe, but typically I've seen something like this and it happens on more than one occasion. So if you have a single occurrence, all right, statistical anomaly. As soon as you start having it happening multiple times, like I think of it in cosmology, it's like, once you get three observances of basically the same phenomenon, then it basically exists. It's like, all right. So I occasionally will get people sending me stuff from LLMs and stuff, ask my thoughts. Hey, I'll weigh in and stuff. But I think one of the best things that one can do is, and this was something that Kurt mentioned, it's like people sending me all these chat logs and everything, and maybe they're not even saying what it is. At least if you could summarize, maybe you look at it. Uh, but it's like, okay, you use this to construct a very elaborate theory that unites general relativity and quantum mechanics. All right. How many of these people then use that same tool to falsify everything they just did? I'm sure it happens. Does it happen as much as we would expect? Or might there be a wee bit of what's that term? Oh, bias involved, especially if you see something, oh my God, see this? This is going to revolutionize everything. It must be right. You kind of get this buy-in, if you would. It's like, all right, this is cool. I'd help discover this by using the right prompt terms and everything. And maybe you have. Maybe you have. Here's the thing. I haven't heard everything. I'm just a dude. Maybe people have fully solved this with these large language models. Basically, my thought is if you do have a novel idea, it's like, okay, there's a concept called peer review, aka people are looking at it and looking to see if it makes sense and maybe poke some holes, so to speak. They may say red teaming, basically trying to figure out what might be going on, because if there's a hole, you're just going to go around and just scream louder, because obviously we all know the louder and the more confidently you say something, the more right you are. I spent 10 years in corporate sales. I mean, this is obviously the case. Uh, I digress. I digress. It's the whole, if there is something there, then you should be able to survive some scrutiny. Maybe the scrutiny is wrong. Maybe you could have something to come back, but it's, if you haven't, if you've developed a model using a tool, have you used the same tool to try to disprove your model? That's essentially the essence of what I took away from what Kurt was saying. I was looking for the tweet for a long time. I spent like maybe 10, 15 minutes. I couldn't find it. So I put this little thingy we have there. So let's go over there. Hey, Diadon. Good to see you. Good to see you. Uh, yep. Well, Diadon's commenting. Intuition. Attempt to falsify, question everything, including your own intuition. I'll be going through this, and every once in a while, I'll be like, oh my God, did I publish a piece that said the exact opposite? I'm going here, my definition of like current and everything. It's like, did I literally publish fake science and like work from summer school project and go back? No. Okay, so at least that was correct. So it's like, oh my God, like a lot of times it's like I get extra information. Oh, am I totally wrong? I just assume I'm totally wrong. I don't know. Is that one of those Dunning-Kruger things where it's, I know they said like, well, if you're an uninformed person, you're going to be more confident in things. If you're very informed, you're not going to. That wasn't technically, at least not been explained to me, what that fully was, but the general ethos of, well, if it's very simple, it's obvious. Did you look under the surface? It's not like there's any current news stories going around where people had very strong opinions about something. That with just a little bit more information a day or so later, maybe complete BS. I'm sure nobody can think of any situations like that. Oh, that's sad. Is that the Alcubierre Drive person? I don't know who that is. I'm sorry. Maybe a piece then, I guess. Um, so today, what are we talking about? Okay. I did a novel little experiment. Uh, where are we at? So, let's see over here. All right, so let's go over. So what I did is, and again, I'm like, well, I'm gonna do a stream on this. Let's do a little experiment. I go into ChatGPT, and this is the not the fanciest. This is ChatGPT 5. So I asked it, please create a novel theory that unites general relativity and quantum mechanics, because I'm sure it's never been asked that. Look at me. All right, here's a fresh speculative theory that attempts to bridge general relativity and quantum mechanics in a novel way. I'll call it a holographic causal lattice framework, HCF. That sounds fancy, and I'm sure I haven't read that in anyone else's ideas on the internet that's posted such chat. Core idea, space-time is not continuous, nor merely the series in the conventional self-organizing holographic lattice of causal relations, where geometry and quantum fields emerge from the same informational substrate. I mean, I have no idea about this, but it's using a lot of words that I've heard in different contexts. I'm like, wait, there's like a causal set theory related to general relativity. I mean, Juan Maldacena uh, paper on the holographic principles, like the most cited paper in physics here. We've got lattices in here. It's got all the great words that I like to hear that sound really sciencey. Let's continue with ChatGPT's novel idea. Key principles. Causal primacy. Space-time being a smooth manifold as in general relativity, or background independent but probabilistic as in quantum mechanics. The fundamental entities are causal links. Yes, no relationships of influence between events. Personally, this actually sounds like some folks that I've talked to, ideas and everything. I mean, and part of this is causal links. I mean, it sounds like there might be an underlying rule set. So maybe we can get some Wolfram's ruleology into here as well. As you can see, there seems to be an amalgamation of ideas. Maybe this is the answer. I don't know. Let's continue. Think of them as nodes and directed edges in a vast network. Oh, that sounds really like a hypergraph. But the weights of these edges are quantum amplitude. That sounds like a new idea. Something about amplitude theories and everything. Yes, no, it's on buzzwords for the win. It's part of this, and again, just a, even Wolfram's piece from last week about I have a theory, and we read through that. It was only like 10 pages. It may have actually been the shortest blog post he's posted in a good long time. But basically, in that, he kind of went through his history of even when he was 15 years old, he had published some papers, and he started having correspondence with some folks. And some folks were going back and forth, and they didn't really seem to be making much headway and stuff. And then Stephen Wolfram, again, he gets like 600 emails a day, and it's like very often, a couple of email, it's like, Dr. Wolfram, I figured it out or something. And it's like, some of these folks, like, they have a lot of drive. They want to do cool things. And it's like, well, then they end up just kind of using high school physics and are kind of ignoring, I don't know, like the past 100 years of more modern physics, so to speak. And if you're not paying attention to that, it's like you might be skipping over like the vast corpus of knowledge. And one of the things with these large language models is if they've read the internet, my general opinion is it's going to give you a typical answer you would get from somebody on the internet that's read through these things. So now a typical answer on the internet very often is wrong. Sometimes it's right. Sometimes it might be a little bit misfocused. Very often, depending on the topic, you might have to metaphorically machete your way through with all the verbs, the adverbs, and everything, especially when people have to talk about people they're not fond of, and they have to layer it up with, this is a terrible, horrible, no good, very bad person. Like, okay. So after you cut away all the adverbs and opinions, it's a person. Got it. You might not like them. That's fine. What is the actual core of what we're talking about? Holographic encoding. Every boundary, that's information. Not volumetrically, like general relativity curvature. But holography, you want causal boundary. Not just saying boundary. We're using causal boundary. Excuse me, not just that. We're emboldening holographically on its causal boundary. Ooh, that sounds good. That gives me the nice fluffy feeling. This unifies the Bekenstein Hawking entry bound to quantum entanglement entropy. The surface of causal boundaries determines both curvature, gravity, and state space dimension, quantum possibilities. So as we had Jonathan Garrod on the channel, and he was the first person to really explain this to me. Essentially, if you had a soup can and you got your quantum field theory on the label there, basically from the label, you'd be able to tell what type of soup is in the can and what it's doing. So basically, from a boundary condition, we can figure out what's happening on perhaps the higher dimensional, delicious soupy interior. Okay, so we've got that. All right, let's go to the third point that GPT-5 generated for us. All right. Quantum superposition as topological ambiguity. In this view, superposition arises when multiple possible causal lattices can interpolate between past and future boundaries. What does it mean interpolate? Interpolate, insert something into something else. The lattices can insert into each other between past and future boundaries. Okay. Mechanism, the collapse of topological ambiguity. We got collapse and then topological ambiguity. Something that's uncertainty there, some may say. And that then selects one consistent causal thread. This naturally clones wavefunction class as a resolution of causal indeterminacy. So we're incorporating that over here. We have the Hawkins Bekenstein bounds and everything. To be fair, so I don't think we've ever uh, experimentally observed Hawking radiation. We may have experimentally observed Unruh radiation. That that might just be fake science or fake news right there. I'm not sure. I just know those are much more speculative because we've never actually like gone to a black hole or whatever supermassive. We haven't gone to some mass hole type thing and actually measured Hawking radiation. So folks say, oh, well, we simulated in a lab. It's like, okay, well, you did stuff with water. If you're telling me that's the same thing as a lab star that's there, maybe there's a mathematical equivalence, but I'm sorry, it's not the same thing. Maybe there's a neat math thingy there, but sorry for me, that's not a lab star. That's just some water in a lab. Yeah, I'm a mathematical character, I guess. All right. Number three, quantum superposition and topological ambiguity. So as we can see, the terms that we are proposing here are causal, causal link, causal links, not causal set theory. Yep, we're using causal links, causal boundary, topological ambiguity is another big word here. We're probably gonna see. All right. All right. So gravity is an emergent curvature of causal density. Ooh, I almost thought the destiny. Generally, space-time curvature arises statistically from the density of causal connections, a high density of causal links. informational interaction correspond to positive current pressure, mass energy concentration. Yeah. So I mean, I guess that kind of makes sense. All right, you got some mass, you got some energy, it's going to deform space time as we know it. Bada boom, bada bing. Okay. Einstein's field equations then become an emergent thermodynamic limit of the underlying quantum causal dynamics. I mean, that sounds like the elevator pitch for Jonathan Oppenheim uh, entropic gravity model. So it's like, all right, we got Lon Maldaceta's ADS CFD correspondence. We got Jonathan Oppenheim entropic gravity. We got some notion of real-illness from like the Wolfram Physics Project. We got some causal set theory, maybe some loop quantum gravity with some form of a lattice or something going on here. All right, so it's be giving a generalized, synthesized thing that you would hear from somebody on the internet. With my scale, the causal lattice fluctuates wildly with topology changing moves akin to Hatcher moves. Quantum gravity. Ooh, I have no idea what that is. Hatcher moves. But I mean, this is at least a new thing to me. Topology of branch of mathematics, Hatcher move, Adapter Udo Patcher are ways of replacing triangulation. Ah, so dynamical triangulations. I know who did Stephen Wolfram have on? Was it Professor Hoffman or was it somebody else? They were talking about dynamic triangulation. Basically, if you're going to adjust something, you add or subtract a triangle into whatever lattice you're having. Are also called bisolvable things, triangulation, piecewise linear manifolds are aided by a finite sequence of fractional moves. Okay. 2 to 3 fractional moves using the 2 tetrahedron that's decomposed into 3 tetrahedron. Ooh. I mean, I'm also very biased. See, so like for stuff like this, I don't think I've ever been to this page. Maybe I mean, I clicked on simplex and stuff before, and this seems to actually be going into a lot of other stuff, but this is a lesser known thing. So again, I think these are the strengths of the model, in that if you've never heard of something like this, I can go here and be like, okay, now I know that's a thing. Very cool. Topological changing moves akin to Pachner moves. Okay, so something about dynamic triangulation and symplectical quantum gravity. Okay? Or are they just combining the term simplex, which is basically n-dimensional triangle? Maybe it is. Ah, so I read something. Maybe Hartle. Hartle from Hartle Hawkins? Oh, I don't know. Let's see. All right, so maybe this is from interesting stuff. Let's see. Calculus, blah, blah, blah. Made of fat, simple space. Okay. So maybe it's going to cross some of this. Cool. These fluctuations generate natural UV cutoff for quantum field theories involving divergences without ad hoc renormalization. So the claim is if we get down to this place and then we basically invoke triangles, 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 we can account for quantum fluctuations and avoid the whole ultraviolet catastrophe. Okay? Unification mechanism. Relativity size. Smooth space and classical causal structure appeared in the large n, fourth grain limit of the causal line. Quantum side. non-local correlations, entanglement emerge from holographic redundancies in the causal boundary encoding. Thus, the same structure yields both local curvature and non-local entanglement. I mean, it just sounds like you're like, I play the holographic principle, thereby I account for this. Okay. Predictive consequences. Modified black hole evaporation. Information escapes not via exotic firewalls, but through reconfiguration of holographic boundary encodings predicting subtle deviations from Hawking's radiation spectrum. I mean, I'm not sure what the subtle deviations would be, but maybe we'll get into that later. Cosmic microwave background and large angle scales with small causal essence treatment should be faint, statistical grainy in polarization correlation. I mean, that sounds like a claim that you have heard on the internet. It's like, we can account for these anisotropies because something quantum fluctuates. Or the inflaton field going this yada yada smoothness minor deviation. Scattering their Planck scales which show signatures of causal topology change. Potentially detectable in ultra high energy causal ray interaction. Causal topology change. I mean, I'm not sure how that would do that. Like, I mean, we kind of already have like the oh my god particle or the wow particle or something like that. So it's like maybe that is the case. Philosophical shit. Quantizing space-time, a continuum approach, or gravity as just another gauge force. The HCl framework says space-time and quantum mechanics are tool descriptions of one deeper informational causal lattice. I mean, that sounds like a lot of the things that I've read and everything. I followed up. Would you like me to formalize these into equations, like a sketch of a Lagrangian / action for the causal lattice? We'll keep it at the conceptual level for now. Now, oh, is my audio messed up? Let's see. Let me check myself before I regret myself.
Ah, there we go. Okay, for some reason my AirPods, they love to work, and then you got to unplug them, and then they seem to decide when to. I got to go to the stupid Apple store. All right. Okay, so now that I see, this is why we should check first. No. Okay. So ultimately, here's where we go. I have no idea when I cut out. Let's go back real quick. Okay. All I know is, hey, if I paid a bunch of extra money for these dang things, they should work with an Apple computer, right? I mean, if that's not the case, just give me my money back. Just give me my money, and I'll just grab a frickin' like $20 pair of earbuds that work rather than spending 200 and like oh, God knows how much money. All right, let's go back here. Let's see how much my audio messed up. Let's go back to the. Okay, yeah, it was garbled the whole time. All right, that's highly concerning. Wow. Okay, so at least I have a reason to be angry when I go to the Apple store. And then they'll tell me it was user error, because it probably was. I'm just saying, if I got an Apple computer within the past few years and I got some frickin' things that are designed to work with your product, it should work. I'm just saying. But no. But basically, we're getting to the point. The long story short is you're talking about somebody, and again, I'm not talking about like AI researchers per se that are actually studying what's going on within AI and large language models. I'm talking about like the independent researcher that's utilizing AI as a tool. My main takeaway is when learning about stuff that you've never heard before, fantastic tool. Because you can, if you didn't know something was a thing, how would you know until somebody tells you? So like over here, it's telling me about was it like symplectic quantum gravity? Apparently, it was written by J.B. Hartle. I think they're the same Hartle from like the Hartle-Hawking formulation and stuff. So could be wrong about that. But also Pachner moves about decomposing triangulations. So basically, long story short is I went to ChatGPT 5 and I'm like, please create a novel theory that unites general relativity and quantum mechanics, because I'm sure nobody's ever asked it that before. So it's a fresh speculative framework. It's calling it holographic causal lattice framework, HCL. Core idea is it's a causal lattice, something. We're using causal links, holographic encoding, duality, Hawking, Bekenstein hopping, entropy, collapse of topological ambiguity, causal indeterminacy. So topological ambiguity, causal indeterminacy are going to be the key buzzwords we have here. So it's saying a lot of things you'll hear on the internet. Okay, blah, blah, blah. Black hole evaporation, cosmic microwave background's not really going into it, saying rather than quantizing spacetime, a continuum approach, or gravity just another gauge force. The HCL framework says spacetime and quantum mechanics are dual descriptions of one deeper informational causal lattice. Now, I'm pretty sure that's something I've heard somebody say on the World Science Festival without maybe deeper informational quantum lattice. But the whole point is, you hear this, it says a lot of the words that I, as a science enthusiast, have listened to a bunch of YouTube videos. That sounds fantastic. And it's like, would you like to formalize this into equations and everything so it'd be more formal, so you can actually go through and do calculations? So a half hour in, now that we've got our audio actually squared away, thank you, Charlie. Let's actually get to a point, shall we? The one thing that I think a lot of independent researchers that may be using AI to help develop different models that sound really cool is something that Kurt, shout out to Kurt from the Theories of Everything channel, had mentioned, I think like 4 or 5 months ago. It's like, he's like, people are sending me all this stuff. Sometimes they'll send like literally a log of just like 100-page chat with ChatGPT, like no context, or it's like, this solves everything. It's like, I'm not an LLM. You expect me to read all that and know what's going on? It's like, maybe it is the answer to life, the meaning, and life, the universe, and everything. Maybe it's just a whole bunch of just garbled words that an LLM put out because it made you happy. I don't know. Okay, so ultimately, what Kurt says, how many folks ask the very simple question, please falsify everything we just covered? Basically what he says, how many of these folks that were sending him different things of all these different logs, that maybe there's some very interesting stuff in there, how many of them spent the time once they developed something and it said all these things and it's told me plenty of cool things. Oh, this could be useful for quantum gravity and quantum mechanics. This will be a bridge. It said very nice, flattering things. Okay. There's this whole concept of trust, but verify. So it laid out something that I've seen in different discords, and you'll see people posting things on Twitter and social media about, oh, well, it told me all this. This is obviously all these scientists are wrong. Perhaps that's the case. How many times do you have somebody that's showing you these things that simply did the please falsify everything we just covered? Let's see what ChatGPT does when it's going to falsify its own idea about uniting quantum mechanics and general relativity. It's what do they call it? Holographical causal lattice framework, HCL. So if you've ever got an answer with something about holographic causal lattices, I'm sure you're the only one. We continue. So, all right, love it. Let's go full on adversarial. Here are the sharpest ways to knock down or tightly constrain the holographic causal lattice, HCL idea we just sketched. Internal contradictions. Number one, edges carry amplitudes plus collapse equals topology selection. Leads to threatens unitarity. Well, that don't sound good. If measurement is an objective topological change, reversible interference experiments, quantum erasers / weak undoable measurements, fault-tolerant quantum circuits should be impossible or measurably lossy. They aren't. Either collapse is the only epistemological, not topological, is epistemic, not topological, or HCL conflicts with abundant lab evidence. Oh no! A very pretty theory just got knocked down on. Seems to have a grave error in first counterpoint 1. All right, the second part. Boundary fully determines interior, always. Leads to false and generic space-time states. Holography, as known, is conditional, i.e., specific asymptotics, coded subspace limits, claiming any causal boundary fixes all interior data, overreaches. Generic quantum field theory states exhibit volume law entanglement. Is it? I thought it was mostly two-dimensional, although there are some volumetric terms there. I think like electric constants expressed in like 4 pi. So it's kind of like a spherical. Again, don't have a PhD in physics. Entanglement and independent bulk degrees of freedom inconsistent with a strict universal boundary, only encoding. Causal density leading to curvature is undetermined. A scalar or even a few scalars cannot reproduce the full 10 components of the G mu nu tensor, obeying the Bianchi identities and distinguishing Ricci from Weyl curvature. You can't get gravitational waves, transverse traceless degrees of freedom from density alone. Don't you need like the stress energy tensor or something like that? I don't know. Conflicts with established theorems and instructions. The Weinberg-Witten tension. Emergent massive spin-through field from a Lorentz invariant local unitary theory with a good stress tensor are heavily constrained. Maybe that's the stress tensor we were looking for. Our holographic causal lattice model must break at least one assumption. Locality, exact Lorentz invariance, or the notion of a gauge invariant T mu nu as stated. It doesn't disclose which, so it's inconsistent or incomplete. Cluster decomposition and microcausality. Non-local holographic redundancies that leak into low energies typically spoil factorization of distant experiments. High precision Bell tests and scattering factorization constrain such leakage. Our holographic causal lattice model provides no mechanism to protect cluster decomposition. Don't feel bad. I actually have no idea what this is. Something about factorization. I don't know if that breaks Bell tests or not. Again, not a PhD in physics. Maybe this is just blathering about things, but I don't know. Let us continue. Let's see. Empirical showstoppers. Lorentz violation from discreteness. Discrete causal substrates generally induce energy dependent speeds and anisotropies. Anisotropies. I know, I swear I can speak. Astrophysical and tabletop bounds. Okay, so it's a toy model then. When dispersion and direction dependent effects are extremely tight without symmetry. Example, exact random sprinkling with like properties, HCL is already ruled out to leading orders. Well, something about, hey, maybe Lorentz symmetry is violated. We don't know that. It doesn't appear to be that. I don't know. I'm not a doctor. If your liver is quaking, you may want to get that checked out. Area law dimension bound versus lab volume law states. HCL's boundary set state space dimension would cap entanglement to area. But many body experiments routinely prepare volume law entangled states and then arbitrarily large Hilbert spaces and boxes that don't scale their surface fast enough unless you invoke gravity, inducing collapse thresholds each time, which the proposal didn't. As stated, falsified. All right. I don't know if that's correct, but apparently we didn't state something within the model we asked ChatGPT to generate. So from at least this one thing, and again, maybe this is all hot garbage. Maybe it's hot garbage evaluating hot garbage. But at least according to this, it's been falsified again. Gravitational waves. Any emergent gravity limit must reproduce two polarizations, luminal speed to high precision, and the observed dispersionless. A causal density scalar picture can't do this without extra structure absent. It's empirically wrong. So basically, you gotta only explain, well, how the heck does gravity actually work, rather than saying something resolution ambiguity. It's apparently isn't good enough to rewrite all of physics yet. Let's see if we get something else here. So again, for those of you just joining us, what we're doing is the simple act of a lot of people using ChatGPT and learning things, doing research on things seems to be very good. If you're asking it to do something like, please create a novel theory that unites general relativity and quantum mechanics, it will say a whole lot of words, very often buzzwords, and some of the things might actually be real things. Perhaps they will link together in a coherent framework that will explain all the different stuff we're trying to do. Or maybe this one little trick that people using AI and LLM tools may miss. Simply asking, please falsify everything we just covered, i.e., show me where I'm wrong. Because if we're looking for truth, we would want to know we're wrong and not just go out there and just say a whole bunch of things and feel good about ourselves, give ourselves pats on the back, being like, this explains it all. Maybe it does. Maybe it does. Or maybe it's a large language model that's basically just trying to make us happy. It's not like any social media networks or platforms would want to give you things that would keep you engaged. I mean, at that point, then they'd be valuing engagement over the actual thing that people might think they're doing. It's kind of like, well, what's Twitter? Oh, it's a place to doom scroll and get angry. What's YouTube? A place to watch cat videos and get angry about different things. I mean, you could use it for actual things you're interested in or not, but even if you have a fully science algorithmic YouTube algorithm, click on one spicy political video, and right for the next couple of days, you're gonna notice, this thing's recommended here, this thing's recommended here. It's like, no, that's just horrific things. That's just rage bait. Is it keeping you engaged? Again, working as intended. But let's continue. So again, the whole point of this stream is I support people learning. Like, I've learned a bunch of things, asking questions and learning about different things. But if you're just going to have it put together the thing, and especially it's very engaging when it's like, would you like to formalize this into equations? I'm not going to say I haven't had it set together some equations that I'm kind of noob at. But it's like, put this into a way and describe everything so I can at least try to replicate it via Wolfram Alpha or something myself so I can actually look into it. Because you could have some fancy triple integral that's saying all these things. It's like if the LLM or ChatGPT, Claude, whatever version it is, if it's writing you equations and you don't know what those equations mean, and you're sending this transcript to, I don't know, Kurt, me, Stephen Wolfram, whoever it might be, if you're sending it to something because the LLM said, well, this obviously is revolutionary, blah, 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 maybe it did solve all this and a bag of chips. Or maybe it's saying things that make you happy so you continue to use it. I don't know what the answer to that is. But the whole moral of the story is, again, just this one trick. Very simple. Please falsify everything we just covered. Now, I'm sure people are doing that if they're serious, because if you're serious, you'd want to know where you had mistakes. If you just want to like feel like superior and be like, I asked the right prompts, we've solved everything, but you don't understand what it is or what it's totally saying, but it just kind of sounds right. Because I mean, just reading through this holographic causal lattice, I mean that literally sounds like papers on the archive and stuff like that. Heck, simplicial quantum gravity. I mean, this is an actual paper on the archive by maybe the guy that literally worked with Stephen Hawking. I think it actually is James Hartle. I didn't even know if he was still with us. Wow. But here's ultimately the thing. As a research tool, great. Maybe it will solve different things, but it's like, okay, it says a lot of cool things, and especially if it's saying smart things, and you're getting equations, especially if maybe you're like me, you don't have a PhD in physics or something, you're going through this, you're like, this sounds good, this sounds good. Again, if it's giving you a typical answer you get on the internet, it's like, again, I don't have a PhD in physics, but I've spent far too much time on the internet. You're going to have people waxing and waning, especially as somebody like me that came from corporate sales. If you say enough fancy words with confidence and conviction, and you say it passionately, endearing, and you use enough buzzwords, and you get a vibe that people generally agree with, often they might agree with you. And we all know, as long as a whole bunch of people agree on something, it's obviously right. It's not like people would pull the wool over other people's eyes or lie by omission or something like that. It's like, yes, all these things. We just don't mention the little side effects. It's like, what was it with Olestra? It's like, caution, quote, may cause anal leakage. Really? That sounds more like a actual effect per se than a side effect, but yeah. Or the other pharmacological drugs and stuff like that, where you see the warnings. It's like, if any of these symptoms, including death, occur, please stop using our particular drug. It's like, I'm pretty sure if that last thing occurs, I'm not going to be using your drug anymore because I ain't of this mortal coil. But so basically, long story short is the moral of the story. It's like, okay, if you're going to have this and you're going to have it be putting up some form of something to contribute to science, that's totally cool. But perhaps before you submit it for a peer review, if maybe just simply within the same chat that you've had with it, just ask it to just falsify everything we just said. Poke holes in it. Because if you're actually looking for something that's useful, it should be able to stand up to scrutiny. And if it can't stand up to its own scrutiny here, and again, I'm not saying that there aren't interesting things and ideas and you couldn't have it outsource a calculation to Wolfram Alpha or something that might show you very interesting things. I think it's a wonderful tool, but just recognize what it is doing here. Because holographic causal lattice framework, HCL. That sounds fancy. That sounds like a lot of other things I've heard. I see a whole bunch of buzzwords I recognize, including some I don't. And then you just do the simple. Please falsify. Okay. So it's going on with edges canceling amplitudes and collapses of topological selection. Seems to threaten unitarity. Heck, I've listened to a Bill Unruh lecture, the gentleman they named Unruh Radiation after. And he said at one point he said he was okay with unitarity basically being violated. So maybe that is true right there. But the other thing was that we have the boundary determines the interior always. Okay? So false and generic space-time states. Maybe basically it's pointing out that we didn't include certain mechanisms here. Basically, in the initial proposal, it is saying or talking about these things, and then it's like, well, it's talking about these things, but this needs to be a thing if you actually want it. So it seems to be poking quick holes there. Conflicts with established theorems. Okay. So, well, if you're arguing with Weinberg and Witten, again, this might just be BS here. With good stress tensors are heavily constrained. Okay, so there seems to be some magnitude or limit for the stress energy tensor, I believe they're talking about there. Cluster decomposition and microcausality, non-local holographic redundancies that leak into low energies typically spoil factorization of distant experiments. High precision Bell tests and scattering functions constrain such leakage. Was it holographic causal lattice framework provides no mechanism to protect cluster decomposition. Okay, so you need at least some form of a mechanism. That's what this is the thing where I think a lot of folks say it's like the resiliency of the standard model, and you're like, well, we know it's not complete. Oh, that's fine. But if you're gonna throw out everything, it's like, okay, that's fine. Now you just need to explain all the observations of modern particle physics within the standard model, and either explain more or explain what we have with less. Perhaps you can do that, but it's one of those things where as soon as you're going to radically change one thing, here's the thing, there might just be an elementary error. Heck, I mean, I went to, was it one of those conferences over in Portugal with the Demystify Psi folks, and apparently one of the presenters was an established physicist. Apparently, they made they made an undergraduate mistake about something about, well, we've seen some variation on something with light here. It's like they didn't account for it bouncing off a mirror as a change of direction, which actually counts as acceleration. That to me, I didn't catch it. I didn't catch that. I eventually reconvened with some other folks, and they pointed that error out to me. I was just tired looking at this and be like, oh wow, this is fascinating and stuff. I totally missed it. But that's the thing. And to be fair, I think a lot of folks there were kind of polite and didn't just get up and be like, well, you're wrong. There may have been one person up there with perhaps a Mr. Lerner that busted off the whiteboard. It's like, all right, 1 plus z. Well, how about this? And man, they went up like 15 minutes. I'm not sure if that whole discussion is going to make the director's cut, so to speak, for the conversation. But I'm like, to be fair, I'm a bad influence. At one point in Paradigm Drift, I'm like, I'm dragging my whiteboard, little flip chart over, a bunch of things written down. They're like, oh God, Matthew's been writing on that flipboard intensely for the past few minutes. I'm terrified. But long story short, I introduced into the canon of that conference the ability to use a whiteboard or flipboard. So that's how we got there. All right. Well, that's Charlie's commenting. Well, that's the thing. A lot of times I use it as a learning thing. And sometimes, occasionally, since it has had the benefit of reading the internet, sometimes it can be hard to find like maybe a measurement with more than like three significant digits. It's like, well, I would like to have five or six, and maybe it can give something to you. But if it gives something to you, again, trust, verify. What do? You type in the keywords and then you put in that number in Google or something, you search for it and find where it actually came from. Maybe it came from just a random blog about somebody. Maybe it just hallucinated that number. Or maybe it'll direct you to an old Caltech server or something like that. Because I know, what was it, Robert Ford's actual Casimir battery that was in Physical Review B in like the 80s got published. It's on Caltech server, literally a quote-unquote, I don't want to say perpetual energy machine, because that's basically something mining energy from the vacuum machine is on Caltech's website. Now, maybe it's getting put behind a paywall with all the Einstein papers and stuff that I heard allegedly was happening, because obviously the best way to advance science is to put it behind paywalls for folks. Shout out to the Royal Astronomical Society for actually removing their paywall barrier. I looked at it because I'm like, oh, well, maybe I would get something like this if it was reasonable. It's like, yeah, subscribe to our journal for $12,000 a year. Why is that the case? Oh, well, we do it for universities and stuff. Okay. So what you're saying is it's totally not a ivory tower academic setting where all these things must be provided to you. Your average Sally Dick or Jane, some may say that's very classist, if you would. And I've heard that's a big deal, especially from folks in academia. I apologize for my arbitrary rants, but it was just the way my mind works. Okay. Let's get back to our falsification. So again, just to recap, we asked our friend ChatGPT-5 here to create a novel theory that unites general relativity and quantum mechanics. It laid out the holographic causal lattice framework, HCL framework. All right, that's a core idea, key principles, yada yada, whole bunch of buzzwords, things that sound good, things that I've heard in YouTube videos. Okay, and it's saying almost verbatim what I'm pretty sure I've heard Brian Greene say at the World Science Festival. Space-time and quantum mechanics are dual descriptions of, and then it's basically ad-libbing one deeper informational causal lattice. This almost literally seems almost verbatim to what he said, except the informational quantum lattice, I think, was basically what it added here. And then offers to make equations, which gives me additional confidence. The moral of the story is, again, feel free to use this for research, but maybe before you are going to send it to, I don't know, Kurt, Steven, Professor Keating, Dr. Erquay, whoever it might be, because, again, people are very busy. They have lots of other stuff to do. Why should they spend time looking at basically just a chat log if you haven't gone through at least the effort to poke holes in it yourself? And again, it's like, I don't want to discourage people not to do things. It's just, if you're going to do it, kind of trying to echo a little bit of what Stephen Wolfram was saying. It's like saying people send me stuff all the time. A lot of time they're just using high school physics. And it's like, we want to give people a direction for their outlets rather than just, I'm going to go online, I'm just going to post this all over here. Hopefully somebody will read it and recognize the genius. Maybe the genius is completely being ignored. Maybe the argument just don't hold water. That could be the other thing too. Because I've done that. It's like, just tag all these people. Let's put all these things here and everything. And then it doesn't seem to work. And you seem to get frustrated. Like, all right, well, if there's something there, maybe I should look into this. Maybe I should actually try to reproduce these equations. It's like, well, I mean, maybe that's very hard. Maybe I wasn't all that good in math. I mean, at this point, it's like, you don't really have to be good at math. It's just like, you just put all these things here. What's What's the square of whatever the heck this number is? I don't know. It's this 1 quadrillion blah blah blah. Oh, let's c squared divide by big G. Speed of light squared divided by the Newtonian gravitational constant. Oh, it's this thing right here. Oh, it's what is this? It's kilograms per meter. That's a big number. What's that? Linear mass density. Oh, wait, it can give me interpretations. Seal strength, hot tack strength. Oh my god, this is basically the same thing I think they use for seal coating and asphalt. I mean, that's what that kilograms per meter. I think that's basically the units. Yeah, they're doing a mass and then okay, yeah, yeah, it's seal coating and stuff. Okay. I would usually just use a little asphalt stuff where you just kind of put it out there in the bag and then just tamp it down hard and it would usually dry. It's the cheap shorthand way to fill up a pothole there. But long story short is, if you're gonna start to learn things, that's fine. It's and I'll still do this again. I am guilty of this, but it's like if it has something there, my main thing is trust, but verify. Basically, if it's giving you a thing, just look at it. Can we verify this is what's going on here? Can I reproduce it in Wolfram Alpha? Because a lot of times I'll just be listening to like something from like the ICTS, that's basically India's Institute for Advanced Study there. I'll see something on the board. I'll see something like, oh, let me do this equation because, well, it's again, I don't have a PhD in physics. I have never successfully completed a full actual physics class. So for me, any knowledge that I can gain that I didn't have, that usually just somebody that's taken undergraduate physics would have, this is very valuable to me because it helps me help grok, so to speak, what might be going on and fitting it in there. So yeah, that's really it. Oh, hold on. Let's go back here. We were falsifying the numbers constant. Concepts are interesting. It's I know my friend Damaris, she did her project like on concepts drawing from one to the other. Mapping these things out. Oh, hold on. There's a channel I think you'd like. I think it's Gabrielle Cassini. It's hold on. Assumptions in physics. There we go. Assumptions in physics. Here we go. All right, it's got Gabrielle Cassini. Where is it? So okay. So I'm gonna put this down here because what he does at one point in, where is it? They actually just had their first summer school. Okay. Classical mechanics is a high entropy limit. He actually does have a good bit of live streams. So this would be a person I would say maybe reach out to again. I know Kurt had him on to talk about these things, and then you just get the assumptions from his website. But basically, here we go. So faster between different fields. Not they have found reoccurring core concepts between different fields of science. So, Charlie, for you personally, just if you're trying to work on a conceptual framework and just find these different connections, this would probably be a good place to go. And again, it's also the benefit of not being several 100,000 or millions of followers to it. It's small enough where you can kind of like, if you pop it, I think he usually does like Saturday live streams at like around, I think like 11 a.m. or so Eastern Standard Time. Um, but basically, he's a person like I'll pop in there and I'll actually like learn things because he'll like lay it out. It's like, all right, you have this thing, we need this, and then at some point you need this, and he's kind of got like a flow chart and stuff. So that kind of sounds like where you're coming at from there. So like my main thing is, I originally just wanted to start out doing the same thing. Like for me, I'm like, all right, I don't have the answers. I'm literally just a troll on the internet. I'm literally, I literally I started as a troll getting into science things, starting to literally just troll people like Stephen Wolfram doing things like asking things
Do
like,
you like turtles?
yes, yes. I started off as a troll within the Wolfram live streams, and fast forward a couple of years and he converted me into a student. He's good. He's good. That's something that a lot of folks, unless you're familiar with the very deep lore of this channel, I was just literally an internet troll that somehow got into science. That one of the reasons why I kind of like followed that, it's like, well, he also doesn't have like tens of thousands of people here right now. It's just some, maybe like 1,000, couple thousand people watch, few people comment. I'm like, first video, I'm like, 0 divided by 0 is like, I don't know. It's like, I was trolling Thad too, and then while trolling Professor Keating and Professor Wolfram, Nolan trolled me, came across Thad, was still trolling, and then eventually it's like, wait, this predicted the muon G2 results. How? To be fair, every additional muon G2 results, to be fair, Thad refined the equation more and more, and it still seems to be falling within there. Now, you could just say that's matching the data as we go, but it's like, well, isn't that what Newton did? It's like, well, we got all this data. What would match it? I don't know, about like 6.6 times 10 to the minus 11 meters cubed divided by kilograms seconds squared. Newtonian gravitational constant. Yeah. But it's a very interesting thing. Again, I would encourage people to learn and to think. That's the thing. Sometimes it's like we go into like GPS mode, so to speak, where it's like, all right, I just put this thing in, the machine's going to do everything else for me. It's like, okay. So when you're going across the Golden Gate Bridge and it's like, take a right turn, and you look out there and you see San Francisco Bay or wherever the Golden Gate Bridge is, and you're like, no, thank you, I'd rather not. Or are you just going to take a... Yeah, you don't take a right when the GPS tells you to go right off the Golden Gate Bridge. That's why it's good to think for yourself. Okay. So the other things, looks like we're violating Lorentz violation from discreteness. Discrete causal substrate, generically induced energy, dependent speed, anisotropies, astrophysical and tabletop bounds on dispersion, and direction-dependent effects are extremely tight without asymmetry. E.g., exact random sprinkling with... Okay. HCl is already ruled out to Heine-Leon's area law versus lab law, gravitational wave, incompatible recoveries of general relativity and quantum mechanics. No derivation of the Einstein equation. It's not enough to say thermodynamic limit gives you GR. Again, that sounds like it's just invoking Jonathan Oppenheimer's entropic gravity. You must recover G mu nu equals 8 pi G T mu nu, okay, aka there should be a C4 in there somewhere. I think it's missing because it's 8 pi divided by the Planck force, and the Planck force is speed of light to the 4th divided by big G, so I think they're missing that there. The equivalence principle and diffeomorphism invariance density of links does not yield a constrained algebra. ADM, or the Bianchi identities. Renormalization is still needed. UV cutoff of the screeniness doesn't magically remove the need for renormalization. Running couplings anomalies, claiming divergences without ad hoc. The predictions don't help, and some already bite back. Modified Hawking spectrum, not presently testable for astrophysical black holes. Well, I mean, to be fair, for Hawking in general, seem to be gradients. Polarization of two-point functions are already tightly constrained. The absence of extra scale dependence, noise, or preferred direction imprints forces the straightness scale coupling so low the effect becomes negligible, undermining HCl's promised explanatory power. Blank scale topology changes in UHE, ultra high energy scatterings. Existing ultra high energy cosmic rays and gamma ray shadows show no robust anomalies attributed to such effects. Concrete falsifier checks. All right. Popper hits. I think we're talking about falsifiability here. Exact Lorentz test. Look at energy divided by, this looks like the Planck mass, suppression, dispersion, photons, neutrinos, any zero leading coefficients falsify exact Lorentz symmetry. I cannot falsify any of this. Again, I'm not a professionally trained physicist. Entanglement scattering in mesoscopic labs. It means kind of like medium-sized labs prepare controlled volume state laws and fixed area closures. If HCl were right, as stated, growth would saturate an area bound. It does. ADCFT may argue with that. GW polarization dispersion detect any extra polarizations or tiny dispersions would kill GR limited claims. Conversely, the absence of such features kills many holographic causal lattice microdynamics. All right. The equivalence principle at 10 to the minus 15 to 10 to the minus 18, any composition dependent gravitational coupling from link densities would violate universality. Current null results are a squeeze holographic causal lattice framework hard unless it secretly enforces universality. To be fair, I have no idea what it's talking about there. This just kind of sounds like particle physics because 10 to the minus 18. Oh, this is the strong force is about 10 to the minus 15, 10 to the minus 16. The weak force is about 10 to the minus 18-ish. Meters, I believe that's what it's talking about. Again, it's not clear there. What you would need to fix it, or does it fail outright? Specify a symmetry protecting. Exact Lorentz diffeomorphs. Okay, so long story short is, this looks like this whole thing, Noether's theorem. Basically, if there's a conserved quantity within nature, there is some conservation law. I'm butchering that, but it literally is, I think, why physics works, because there seem to be some conserved quantities where like stuff and things happen, and whatever comes out is going to be conservation of stuff or things, perhaps. Provide a map from lattice data to the full metric, including the Weyl curvature, and derive Einstein's equation plus constraints. Replace the universal boundary determination with conditional code subspace statements to prevent volume law entanglement in ordinary quantum field theory. Help space growth away from gravitational collapse. Make a collapse epistemic or emergent from unitary dynamics. Otherwise, you contradict quantum reversibility evidence. Show a renormalization group that lands on the standard model plus general relativity fixed point with the right anomalies and couplings. Again, as with our initial inquiry, this also might be hot garbage. This, I don't know, but let's go to the verdict of our little toy theory that we had ChatGPT come up with. So, after we had it laid out and we asked it to please falsify everything we just covered. Verdict, as written, holographic causal lattice framework is already falsified by laboratory volume law and entanglement, the need for fuel general relativity structure, Weyl curvature, and general relativity properties that causal density cannot supply, plus tight Lorentz invariance bounds. Salvaging any version will require substantial revisions, symmetries, continuum limit, entanglement accounting, and unitary measurement story. If you want, I can refactor the idea into a version that survives these hits. Sure. But then you're going to need to constantly do it, and maybe you will get something, but I think utilizing it as a tool to learn, and then if you do notice something, maybe expand it. Because like every once in a while, I look at something, I'll evaluate. I'll be like, is there some there? Sometimes it kind of fluffs you, so to speak. But be like, okay, what would we need? And again, you're going to need a coherent theoretical framework that fits this in there and goes through there. And even with concepts, that's a very philosophical way to look at it, in that you need to make sure everything's there. This is almost, if you're laying out a concept or like a flow chart, it's very often have it visualized, because at that point it's like, maybe, I don't know, use the other networks or LLMs as methods to help verify or actually look at what you're doing and try to come up with something that might be going on that's interesting, or just have it fact check the things right there. Because, again, we must remember there was an attorney that used ChatGPT to help do some of his lawyering, and it gave him a case that he cited that did not exist. Upon the judge questioning him, he's like, I asked ChatGPT if it was true. Now again, that's it. All I'm asking, folks, is maybe, because again, Stephen Wolfram, it's like 600 emails a day. I've seen folks post in the quote unquote the Theories of Everything Discord and other Discords. You'll see a whole bunch of things there. I get sent things once in a while. Other folks, it's like, might be a cool idea. Before I'm going to read through like 10 or 20 pages of stuff, it's maybe I'd like to know the general gist of it, or I don't know, maybe just ask it to falsify what was just written there, or see the problems, refine it. That's all. I'm just saying, it's I can ask an LLM to write me some really cool sounding stuff. It can even give me equations and everything. But again, it's if we're trying to generate things that are trying to act like humans, it's, I don't know about you, but I'd say, hey, man, I've been trying to act like a human for freaking like 40 something years now, and I'm still failing at it. I'm just a lame language model, personally. But again, if we're going to use these tools, I think it might be worthwhile to at least attempt to falsify. This is one of the things that Kurt put up there. He's like, I'm getting all these things. How many of these people have actually spent the time to ask these tools that are writing like novels and novels of text to actually verify and falsify their own things? Maybe it happens all the time. I suspect it might not be happening as much as one would suspect. That's why when Stephen Wolfram had finished his other thing, he had said, basically, don't send me random theory Einstein wrong. Send me a ruleology. Just like an inherent rule that you can literally see. This is a rule. Maybe it might not be significant for what you were initially trying, but if you find some rule that's going to hold literally forever, that is going to be something that seems to be a human discovery that should last forever. And ultimately, if it's a rule within our universe, so to speak, it's got to have something to do with what's going on, right? Hey, I don't know. Maybe that's why universal computing seems to work. So, but let me see. Okay, Charlie. Well, we'll end your liver shivering here. So, no, all it is remember, we have powerful tools. How we use them, well, that's up to you. I feel like I need a quote Captain Planet right now, whereas the power is yours. Do with it as you will, ain't you, Dad? So, but that's all we really got for right now. Tomorrow, maybe we'll see what we get into. Maybe we'll get into some more fun stuff. There is, I think I'll actually announce some opportunities for some folks that may be interested in contributing that don't have the time, or maybe like $4,000 to invest in going to the Wolfram Summer School. There is going to be a virtual program that we're going to be looking at launching I think first quarter of next year. General terminology right now is the Foundational Thinking Lab. We're looking at putting on like a 12-week program. There'll be virtually like one day a week on like a weekend for folks that maybe they're a business professional, maybe they're working, maybe they have a family, and they don't got like 3 to 4 weeks to leave their families and go to Bentley University and be on there. But it is a new initiative coming out of the Wolfram Foundation that we've been kind of. I say we. Mostly it's Olga and James that have done all the work, set up the website, yada yada. There, I'm just there, like occasionally some notes from maybe a meeting with Steven or something. But yeah, that's going to be coming. If somebody is seriously interested in that, there is supposed to be a fee, but we might be able to make something work if you're really looking at doing something like this, because it's going to be group based, and basically each group will actually have like a computational essay that they'll be able to show and put together by the end of the project. So at that point, basically, you're going to at least be published on Wolfram, the Wolfram community, with something that you can at least cite and be like, hey, listen, I published this here. Maybe it's not in a fancy journal, maybe it's not in the archive. It's at least within the Wolfram community. And even Stephen Wolfram said, it's like, listen, some of the things that we get here, some of these should be turned into actual publications. And maybe if Nature or Physical Review won't take it, I mean, Wolfram did start the Complex Systems Journal, so that's a place where, at least if you submit something, I'm pretty sure somebody's going to look at it. Now, it might not get published, but you'll at least get somebody to take a look at it and give you a bit of a review. So that's kind of why the whole point where maybe rather than having to, if there is an error in something we have, because especially, like, I miss basic errors. Like, I just shared that story where, like, I missed that basic. Well, the photon bounces here, it's change of direction. That's actually acceleration. So that kind of debunks the whole principle of this general presentation. I missed that. If I could have just asked ChatGPT or something, like, is there a problem with this? Then I wouldn't have to deal with the sheer embarrassment of going to a person, presenting it, and being like, oh, little novel thing. But congratulations on boss. I ran into him at the MIT at a human. Actually, maybe I'll just talk about the Human Augmentation Lab and just my stories from there. Because a lot of interesting folks. I ran into Tyler Goldstein, Kurt Mungle, Stephen Wolfram, a couple of folks from the Wolfram Institute, a couple of folks from the Wolfram Summer School, some other folks I had run into that from the Hacker House at MIT, and yeah, I thought it was pretty neat. So we'll see. Again, general ethos: trust, but verify. Perhaps even ask our LLM friends to falsify our ideas, because we're looking for truth, right? I mean, it's not like we're just trying to like get things that say nice words to us, because then we'd just be huffing our proverbial farts, so to speak. I don't know about you, but as nice as it may be to occasionally get a huff of a fart, might not be the best place to live. Might be a wee bit stinky. But with that, peace out, everybody. Take care of yourselves. It's a wacky and wild world out here, but it's open for a better tomorrow. Peace out, everybody.